Good afternoon, everybody. I'll start just with a few words, if you don't mind, and then happy to take what questions you may have. Look, we're here gathered in Edmonton, and I'll tell you there's a lot of enthusiasm in the room right now. We've got an infectious attitude, particularly with so many new MPs here for the first time. Very excited to help their communities and to advocate for a stronger Canada. People are particularly excited about the announcement today, moving forward not just with the Major Projects Office, but the first projects being designated. And they're excited about implementing all the commitments that we've made over the course of the recent federal election campaign. Part of the discussions that we've held today touch on my portfolio, of course, given the imperative to enhance public safety and to address criminal justice reform in Canada. Over the course of the next few months, we are going to be advancing measures that's going to help adopt stronger laws and build safer communities. We're going to be starting off with a series of measures, some of which are in queue already, that's going to expand the authorities of law enforcement to investigate and to prosecute crime. Of course, we've got the campaign commitments that we've made in the recent election around hiring 1,000 new RCMP officers, 1,000 new border officers, and additional prosecutors to make sure that they can keep up with the increased demand that these additional law enforcement and investigative tools are going to deliver. In addition to the resources on the ground to help keep communities safe, of course, we are going to be adopting stronger laws when it comes to the criminal justice system. Over the course of this fall, you should see several major pieces of legislation coming out of the Justice Department seeking to help build safer communities. Specifically, you should expect to see us more than make good on our campaign commitments when it comes to implementing tighter bail reforms, including clarifying the role of bail in the criminal justice system, including reverse onuses for serious and violent crimes, auto theft, home invasion, human trafficking, assault, sexual assault. You'll also see a number of different measures that strengthen sentencing for violent repeat offenders, for serious crimes, to ensure that the perpetrators of those crimes face serious consequences. We intend also to address very serious challenges with delay in the justice system, to ensure that we don't have serious crimes thrown out or stayed purely because they've been taking too long. This is particularly important for survivors of sexual violence and for investigations that deal with complex drug prosecutions. In addition to this piece of legislation that will likely deal with bail, sentencing, and delays, we also intend to move forward with new measures that will help protect victims of intimate partner violence. You should see new sexual offenses established, including the non-consensual sharing of intimate images and non-consensual sharing of deepfakes. There will be several other measures that touch not just on sexual offenses and intimate partner violence, that also protect kids against online exploitation, and we'll see more support for victims through the criminal trial process. In addition, we want to advance measures that will help address the scourge of hate crimes that we see in this country, including specifically faith-based communities, but also hate against identifiable groups more broadly. I'm looking forward to advancing a series of different measures in the next number of months. I'm excited to work with my colleagues to build a stronger Canada, and I'll tell you, we get a lot of support in that room to help make this country a safer place. Thank you very much. Happy to take what questions you may have.
Hi, Minister. Thanks for this. Lisa Mayer, CBC News. You're talking about all this legislation that you're proposing this fall. How soon? Do we have a date we can expect to see some of that?
We should expect to see in the very near future the legislation dealing with intimidation and obstruction of those participating in their faith community, as well as hate crimes more broadly. Next month, we anticipate we will be in a position to table the legislation touching on bail and sentencing. Subsequently, during this parliamentary setting, depending on how efficiently the process of the House works and the collaboration of other parties to advance this legislation to get it done, we expect to see that third piece of legislation tabled later in this parliamentary sitting that would deal with intimate partner violence, protecting kids online, and victims in the criminal justice process.
Great, thank you. And just following up on your comment about some faith-based community, there have been calls from Jewish groups to create nationwide safety zones because of a rise in hate and more security protection. Is that something you're looking at doing?
So I've had the opportunity to engage with the Jewish community over the course of the last number of months, most recently actually here in Edmonton, hosting a roundtable with members of the Jewish community locally in advance of our caucus meetings here. We have to make sure that we can do what's within our bailiwick, and that we also encourage other levels of government to take measures to improve public safety that are within theirs. Specifically, when you're talking about specific safety zones, regulating the ability of people to be in a particular place is not something that falls to the federal government. However, criminalizing morally culpable behavior that may take place in proximity to those institutions or elsewhere is something that we do have the authority to move forward with. Specifically, what you should expect to see is when we're dealing with those facilities that are meant to serve an identifiable group, Think of a synagogue for the Jewish community, a mosque, a church, but also community centers, schools, or specific places that are designed specifically for a given community. We want to add criminal provisions that would prohibit the obstruction of those facilities and the intimidation of the people seeking to use them. In addition, we are looking to establish new measures that would address hate more broadly, that is coupled with other criminal behavior that may take place regardless of its proximity to a particular faith-based institution.
Thanks.
Abigail Beeman, CTV News. I'd like first to ask if you have any thoughts about the shooting of Charlie Kirk and anything that it may say about the current climate of political violence.
Look, thank you for the question. This is unequivocally a tragedy. Regardless of a person's politics, I hope all members of Parliament from all parties would be willing to condemn political violence. What I'm thinking of right now is children who are going to grow up without their dad, a wife who will spend her life without her husband. The reality is we need to be able to speak freely in a democracy without fear of being attacked, being killed for the opinions that we hold. When you take this into the context not just of political activists, but elected officials, you can imagine how the strength of our democracy will be eroded if those who are representing their community, the voice of their community in the halls of Parliament, don't feel free to express the opinions that they've been elected to advance. The senseless and horrific murder of Mr. Kirk is something that deserves condemnation by all political actors, and I am just so terribly sorry for his family as they mourn this extraordinary loss.
Thank you. And going back to the timeline you provided about legislation, I believe you said the first legislation would be around would be the faith-based and communities issue, and you said very near future, and then the bail reform would be next month. So safe to say that first legislation would be this month in September, the next couple of weeks?
Look, it's subject to final decisions taken on the legislative schedule with our House Leader and to events that may always intervene in these circumstances. We intend within the first few weeks, if not sooner, to advance the legislation pertaining to hate and obstruction and intimidation of faith-based institutions, and at a date we're still working toward in October for the bail, sentencing, and delay legislation.
Thanks.
Hi, Minister Fraser. Kyle Duggan from the Canadian Press. I have some questions from my colleagues in Ottawa who could not be here today. Looking to find out what you think of Pierre Poilievre saying that if a person has a list of prior convictions, then they are a, quote, guilty criminal that's been newly arrested, and therefore we are justified in keeping that person behind bars until the trial and or the sentence are complete.
Look, the proof of prior convictions is an important factor, but what we're trying to do when we are moving forward with the bail and sentencing legislation is not to pick off one issue here and there that may excite the public, sometimes for very good reason, by the way, but instead taking a comprehensive view to figuring out what we can do to actually address the concerns that people are raising with us. It's important that we not only advance these measures to improve the public safety outcomes for communities, but to ensure that people actually have faith in the justice system, that they don't feel they need to live in fear in their communities. These are the kinds of factors that we may look at. I noticed a number of the reflections of Mr. Poilievre that I've seen come out of his press conference today actually mirror some of the campaign commitments that we made in the recent federal election. If they are willing to work alongside us to advance reforms that will help keep communities safe without necessarily aiming solely to gin up dissent for a political purpose, then we would be more than happy to work alongside them. In the meantime, we've got a lot of work to do. We've been engaged heavily with our provincial counterparts, not only on the legislative reforms we may put in federally, but the investments they could make on the ground to carry out their areas of responsibility. Whether that is NDP, Liberal or Conservative governments, we want to work alongside all of them.
Thank you. And also curious where you got with your plans for the online harms bill, and if you have a clearer picture of what that might look like. The legislation's been stalled for a long time, and now there are new and emerging issues such as harms caused by AI and online chatbots.
Certainly, and you'll appreciate that some of the responsibilities when it comes to criminal behavior online may fall within my legislative purview. I hesitate to speak for some of my colleagues, notably ministers of heritage and artificial intelligence, who I know will have something to say about their aspects of any legislative efforts that may take place in this space. Suffice it to say, from a justice perspective, keeping our kids safe online against predators and protecting victims of sexual exploitation online is a key priority, and you should expect to see measures reflecting both of those public policy areas in one of the pieces of legislation coming up this fall.
So online harms this fall?
Just to clarify, there are certain criminal behaviors online that will be the subject of some legislation. I'm not referring to the measures that may fall within the purview of some of my parliamentary colleagues who would have a better read of the timing of their specific areas of reform that they may wish to pursue. All good? Okay, good to see everybody again, by the way. Hope you had a great summer.